Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 448 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. As per usual, we're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. We're going to start here in New York last Friday, May the 10th. One fight to mention, an all-female fight. We saw Micaiah Krebs. I think it's probably said Micaiah. She's now 8-0, a unanimous decision over 8-2s against friend of the show, Melissa Odessa Parker, now 6-3. That's 3 losses on the bounce now for Parker, so I don't know what's going on there. I think she was tipped for quite big things when turning over, but obviously she did turn over quite late. But yeah, it's not a good look there. You know, she's racked up a couple of losses in particular that, you know, I don't think she should have been losing to those girls. Moving now to the Palenque de la Feria in Agua Caliente, Mexico. Over here it was live on DAZN. I didn't see any of this, so I'm going to whiz through it. Like I say, there's a few things I missed over the weekend. But Erica Cruz now 17-2 with a draw, a split draw over 10-2s there for the WBA Super Bantamweight World title against Nazarena Romero, now 13-0. She's still undefeated, but she's got a second loss there, 13-0-2. Also on the card, Eduardo Rocky Hernandez, coming off that loss last time out to Usyk Foster. He returned with a bang. He's now 35-2. A TKO for him against Daniel Lugo, who we'd seen go the distance and draw with Maurizio Lara. He was stopped in the 7th. Daniel Lugo now 27-3 with a draw. Moving now to the York Hall, Bethnal Green, London. I was at this card. Fantastic to be back at the York Hall. Probably my absolute favourite venue to go to. I just love the intimacy, the small arena, and I was going to say you can feel every punch thrown. You can, I certainly did feel a punch thrown on the weekend, because I'll get to it in a moment, but I ended up with someone's blood on my leg, which is a reminder to not wear shorts to a boxing event if you're sitting in the front row ever again, because I just felt something wet on my leg, looked down and I had blood on it, that I think came from the nose of Nathaniel Collins. But anyway, starting at the top of the bill, Denzel Bentley now 19-3 with a draw. He stepped in there with Danny Dignam, now 16-2 with a draw. Danny Dignam TKO'd in the second for the vacant WBO International Middleweight title. Dignam down 3 times, all from body shots in the second round. I did say I thought this fight could go some rounds, I think Danny Dignam losing to, the Kazakh, what's his name again? God, mine's gone completely blank, man. What's the Kazakh fighter's name, Eddie? Middleweight champion. Beating a few good guys now. What's his name?
Good question. My brain is bingo. Okay. I don't know why you're asking a brainless guy. Nah.
What's his name, man? We always say his name wrong. God. Oh my God, it's so embarrassing. I've actually got to look it up. It's that bad. My memory's even worse than yours, and I've got no excuse. Janibek Alim.
Oh, Janibek.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Adam Kanuli. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's even if I'm getting it right, which I'm probably not. But yeah, obviously Danny Dignam got splattered by him in I think about 2 rounds. Denzel Bentley went the distance with him and won a few rounds. So I felt the bookies were reading a little bit too much into that, and that's why they made Denzel Bentley such a massive favourite. But to be fair to Bentley, even though he was coming off a terrible performance last time out to Nathan Heaney, he was really good here. And I didn't fancy him as much of a body puncher, so I'd heard that Danny Dignam doesn't take body shots too well, but I didn't expect Denzel Bentley to find that out so early on in the contest. But maybe it was common knowledge, I don't know, they're from similar areas, in terms of London/Essex, so it's not too hard to, the information does travel, especially around the gym. So yeah, it took him not long at all to get rid of Danny Dignam. That's a great win, a great way to bounce back, from losing to Nathan Heaney. And Danny Dignam does find himself in a difficult situation there. All the best to him. Also on the card, Francesco Grandelli, now 18-3 with 2 draws. He lost a unanimous decision over 12 rounds to Nathaniel Collins, who's now 15-0. It was for the EBU Silver featherweight title. Yeah, quite a good fight. Collins started quite nicely, quite well, quite sharp. And yeah, definitely his nose had to be broken by an elbow. I mean, it was horrible sitting ringside, seeing his nose look an absolute mess. I said it to someone sitting next to me who was a big Nathaniel Collins fan. They were cheering him on, and I said, "Oh my God, have you seen that nose?" And it was a real, it looked horrendous, man. It looked like a Halloween mask, that nose. But I think they kind of just clicked it back into place, because it didn't seem to look too bad after that. But you could see the telltale signs, both nostrils, bleeding profusely instantly as well. And like I say, I did end up with some of his blood on my leg. To be fair to the Italian, Grandelli, he did kind of come on strong late on in the fight. I think he's a tough guy, and certainly I wouldn't mind seeing him again. I think he'll ask a few questions of guys there at featherweight. Yeah, he's not a bad fighter at all. So like I say, it was good to see that fight. It's a good developing fight as well for Nathaniel Collins. I still think he'll go pretty far in the sport, and it was another step in the right direction. But yeah, he's had to answer a gut check question there, and he's come through it. And it had to be about the second round, I think. I think it was actually the second round where he got his nose broken. So to carry on for another 10 after that, credit to him. Also on the card as well, Ryan Garner, now 15-0. A unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Liam Dillon, now 13-2 with a draw. Again, I was saying it on last week's show that I just felt to myself that, in fact, I will just mention that I did put some good odds on Twitter, saying that I think these are some good odds to bet on and stuff like that. And off the top of my head, Nathaniel Collins to win on points was 3-1. And also I said Ryan Garner will probably win on points at 6-5. And that is what happened. A lot of people felt that Garner was going to get the stoppage. I mean, that's what the bookies believed. He was going to get the stoppage against Liam Dillon, who, had gone the distance with the massive punch in Reece Bellotti last time out, and he'd never obviously been stopped. He only had one loss, and it was to Reece Bellotti. So I didn't understand why so many people were confident in Ryan Garner getting the stoppage. However, Ryan Garner is much more of a boxer than Bellotti, so I think the clean punches that he was able to land the other night was something spectacular to look at, actually. I think they could have threw the towel in for Dillon. I think he's a tough guy, but obviously just didn't have the punching power. I think he did land a couple of decent shots here and there, to be honest, but not enough to... I don't think I gave him a round, in all honesty. I think Garner as well obviously suffered a cut or two, and he came through that as well. I was really, really impressed with Garner. I thought he was so sharp. I didn't think he'd be able to carry on for the entirety of the fight looking that sharp, And his body shots as well. He sunk in some massive left and right shot, right hooks to the body of Dillon. And it was a crazy pace as well, set particularly early on. But Garner was absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, I'm really excited to see him back out. Also on the card, friend of the show, Archie Sharp, now 25-0, a points win over 8 rounds. However, he was on the deck twice in the first round. The first 15 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, is when the guy's name was, I'm not even sure how to pronounce that first name, Raekwon Facundo Arce, I think is his name. He's now 17-15 with 2 draws, the Argentinian, but he threw a long looping left hook that caught Archie Sharp high on the head, on the temple, and put him over, and he was really hurt. You could see he got back up, his legs were extremely stiff. He tried to laugh it off, and obviously end up getting caught again, going down again, and then his head did seem to clear, and obviously the round after that he ends up putting Arce on the canvas and getting himself a nice 10-8 round, because he'd lost the first round 10-7, and it looked at that point like he was in a world of trouble. But yeah, it was a bad look, to be totally honest. And I know that he's beating himself up about it. I spoke to him when I left York Hall. I called him when I was on the way home, or should I say he called me when he was on the way home. And we just discussed it briefly. He's a friend, obviously, Archie Sharp, and he was just devastated about being caught. And I think you could see that, because I'm pretty sure he was still awake at 6 a.m. when we were both watching the Lomachenko fight. I said, I bet you haven't had any sleep, have you? And he said, no, it kept him up all night. That first round, he was fuming with it. But yeah, he didn't want to get caught by a shot like that. But, all the best fighters have gone down at some point in their career. A lot of people have lost their O's once again. Archie has got the longest win streak in British boxing right now. He's 25-0. No one else has gone that far without picking up a draw right now. So he's still got that intact, but obviously there's a lot to learn from, because he kept getting caught by that long left hook of Arce. And Arce wasn't a fantastic fighter. I think he was sturdy, he was tough, he was experienced, but he shouldn't have been able to catch Archie that clean. But obviously, like I say, after going down and getting back up and his head clearing, he did, aside from getting caught by the odd left hook, he bossed it. He bossed it. And when he was actually sticking to his boxing and doing the right thing, he was looking good. I think sometimes he was lunging in a little bit with the hooks, and sometimes kind of, switching stances a bit too often. Archie Sharp, he seemed to be switching way too much, in my opinion. Like sometimes switching and not even throwing a punch and switching back like a second later. That didn't look great. I think his feet, weren't as good as what I've seen him look before. I think, he's a natural switch hitter, and the way he transitions normally is very, very smooth. You almost don't see it. He's very good on his feet, but he didn't fight to the best of his ability the other night, and he'll learn from that. So yeah, a little bit of a blip, but he did get the win. That's all that matters. Also on the card, Royston Barney Smith, now 10-0. He's starting to look better and better every time out, but a points win for him over 8 against Jonatas de Oliveira, now 6-9. So yeah, Royston, most people thought he'd get a stoppage, but he did go the distance. Moving now to the Cardiff International Arena. Again, this one was live on Sky Sports. I didn't see a minute of it, but I'm going to run through the results. Hughie Fury back with a bang. People were criticising him on Twitter. I couldn't understand this. I was looking, and people were saying like, oh, he's no good, he's rubbish, he should hang up the gloves. Literally after one round, people were saying that. He ended up stopping the guy in the second round, for crying out loud. Hughie Fury now 28-3, a TKO in the second against Patrick Corte, who's now 21-4 with a draw. So, yeah, I don't know what else you want from Hughie Fury. He didn't get a first round knockout, he got a second round knockout, and people were still complaining. I just don't get it. Mark Jeffers on the card. I did say that I can't understand why he's such a big... where was I going with that? Like, the price on him to win by knockout was what they expected, basically. They didn't think he'd win on points, despite only having 4 KOs in his 17 wins. Well, the bookies certainly knew something about Darren Johnston that I didn't know. And Mark Jeffers went in there and absolutely battered Johnston in 5 rounds. Johnston, completely demolished there. It was a good knockout in the end for Mark Jeffers, now 18-0, picking up his 5th KO. Darren Johnston, I don't think I want to see him again in a hurry. He's now 8-1. Moving up the card once again, Reece Edwards, now 16-0, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. The scorecards in the end very, very wide in his favour against Thomas Patrick Ward. Again, this fight was always going to go the distance, but I did think Thomas Patrick Ward was in with a shout, especially as a 9-4 underdog, and a lot of people had him winning the fight. It was a really close fight by all accounts. Like I say, I didn't see it, but in the end, I think they had him by like 8-2 and 9-1, I think, the judges. So I don't know what's going on there. But a good win for Reese Edwards. It's a good scalp, and he's now, like I say, 16-0. Thomas Patrick Ward, 34-2 with a draw. It was for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Featherweight title. Ward cut as well in round 10. Moving now to the main event, Jessica McCaskill now 12-4 with a draw. She lost a technical decision, but unanimous, to Lauren Price, now 7-0, but more importantly, the new IBO and more importantly, WBA welterweight world champion. She completely schooled Jessica McCaskill from what I've been told, and like I say, there was some serious swelling on the eye of McCaskill, and I've seen a photo of it. It looked absolutely horrendous, her left eye. It was a 5th round head clash, and the eye seemed to get worse and worse and worse as the rounds progressed, so the doctor stopped it and it went to the cards, and like I say, that was in the 9th round, so there was only 1 2-minute round to go, but they decided to stop it there and go to a technical decision, which Lauren Price won and won wide. Moving now to the final card to mention of the review part, we're going to the RAC Arena in Perth, Western Australia. Over here it was live on a few different channels. Going to start with this one here. Andrew Maloney, friend of the show, now 26-4. He lost a split decision to Pedro Guevara. Again, this is another guy I said was worth a shout on points. He's now 42-4 with a draw. It's been a rough few weeks for the Maloney twins. Like I say, split decision. Andrew Maloney certainly felt he won the fight. It was for the WBC interim super flyweight world title. If I'm not mistaken, that may mean that the twin brothers have both got identical records again. I don't know if Maloney, if Jason is 26-4 or 27-3. I think he's one or the other. But anyway, yeah, Andrew Maloney left absolutely devastated, saying he's going to retire from the sport. He's done with boxing. He felt he won the fight really wide in the end. But yeah, like I say, I think it was closer than that, but he may have done enough. I wasn't strictly scoring it, but sad to see that from him. Like I say, he's a nice guy, and he's had a rough time with the judges' scorecards over the years, to be honest with you. It's a little bit of a pattern. Doesn't matter if the fight's in Australia or not. You know, he's had bad luck at home. He's had bad luck on the road. So, yeah, I think the politics of boxing or whatever, maybe the officiating in boxing, certainly beginning to get to him. Also on the card as well, Hemi Ohio. He's now 22-1. He actually got knocked out by Faiga Apelu, and Faiga Apelu got knocked out by Lucas Brown. So that analogy there, I felt that Lucas Brown was in with a chance, but no. Lucas Brown TKO'd in the first round by Hemi Ohio. Lucas Brown now 31-6. He's decided to retire from the sport after that. It's probably the right decision. I think for a guy that turned pro so late, he must have made some big bucks in the sport. You know, he was boxing in big fights many, many times, and he always provided excitement. And I seriously think they could make a Hollywood movie on Lucas Brown, going from literally the door of a nightclub right up to being world champion, going all the way to, I think it was Chechnya, and knocking out Ruslan Shagayev, and then obviously, you know, everything that happened after that with the drugs test and all the rest of it. But he's a nice guy, he's a friend of the show, and yeah, I think it's the right time that he retires now. I think he was, you know, dangerously, you know, he carried on way too long. He got stopped a good few times in brutal fashion, and obviously he's right up there in age, I think 45. What else did we have on that card? Imam Katayev, who I think medalled at the Olympics. He's now 7-0, I believe, with 7 KOs. A TKO for him in the 6 against Ricards Bolotniks, now 20-8 with a draw. Nina Hughes, Eddie, I'm going to come to you. I know you only caught the end of this fight, but Nina Hughes, friend of the show, now 6-1. A controversial majority decision loss to home fighter Shanika Johnson, who's another friend of the show, now 16-2. She's dethroned Nina Hughes of the WBA bantamweight world title over 10-2s, like I say. Nina Hughes, if I'm not mistaken, massively outthrew Shanika Johnson, but Shanika Johnson did a lot of good work at long range with that jab. You know, she's got a good jab, and she was so much bigger than Nina Hughes. I think Nina Hughes is about 4'11", so you know she's really small, and obviously 41 years of age, but still an unbelievable athlete. But yeah, Shanika Johnson with the win. Very controversial in the end when the MC, you know, said and still, should I say, and Nina Hughes celebrated it. Then they called both fighters back to the center of the ring and announced that they called out the wrong name and that it was and the new. So that was very mad in itself. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that, Eddie, over all your years.
No, I don't think I've ever seen that. Besides the whole thing with Steve Harvey doing it on the Miss America pageant, and I don't even think I've seen something in that kind of a format. But no, that was wild. You know, to think that you won the fight, you know, it being a big fight, and you know, an opportunity, and you know, for the other person, and then you know, it's just crazy to have to sit there and you know listen to your you lose a fight. They come back, and then I mean, obviously, it's nice if person for who won. I think it was Shanika Johnson, right? She won.
Yeah.
So that's great, but oh my God, it's an emotional roller coaster for sure. So I mean, I didn't get a chance to see much of the fight to kind of get my analysis of who I thought won, but but this is the thing that got me a little bit though, and you know, I got a little history with this guy a little bit, and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to incriminate myself, but you know Joe Tessitore, right, Joe?
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah.
Did you hear how critical he was of that? Now, I'm not saying that he was wrong. 100% right.
No.
I could he would to a degree.
We had different commentary. We had
so you didn't hear it.
Yeah, we had Nico Ali Walsh and Christina Poncha on Sky Sports.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, Joe Tessitore, and he was with Tim Bradley, and he tore into him. Like, I mean, didn't hold back, which I guess that's a good thing to a degree, but it just kind of brings to mind, like how critical some of these guys are who are pundits of the fighters. And it just makes me say, damn, like you can't even, you don't even excuse. I'm not saying that he couldn't do that. But you do realize he is doing this job. You know what I mean? And everyone makes mistakes. I'm still not excusing it, but just the way he went in on him and it's amateur hour. How could you do such a thing? And he was just like going crazy. I'm like, damn. I'm like, no grace. And then I start thinking of like my career and some of the things that happened to me and then the different guys, how they would talk negatively. And it's like, and I still won the fight. And it's like, but they would just say things like, oh, he's unexciting. Oh, we didn't miss anything by missing that fight. And they weren't necessarily saying it on air, except for the unexciting thing was said on air. But it's just like, damn, these guys, sit on their butts. And I'm not trying to say that what they do is easy, but they sit on their butts and they talk about fighting. And they talk about these other people that are actually doing something that a lot of them wish they could do. And some of them do it a little, but a lot of them wish they could do. You rarely hear the fighters downing other fighters to that degree. It's always more of a professional type thing, or, it's critique, but it's not like making them feel like they don't belong or they shouldn't. You know what I mean? It's always the other guys. It's always the color guys.
Tim Bradley does his fair share, to be fair.
He does, but not to the degree of his criticism is like based on like something they didn't do or did, or they did, or they, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, he's the worst this, or he shouldn't, he shouldn't be fighting, or unless they're talking about somebody who should have retired. And in that case, they're looking out for him. But it's just not the same. Like, you listen to the fighters talk about the other fighters, then you listen to the other pundits, the guys who aren't fighters talk about him. And there's a real stark difference of, like, if you look at what they say, they seem to be hyper critical. And I was just thinking of that too with this whole announcer, and I'm like, damn, these guys really, they really start falling in love with the position that they're in and not really respecting. And the athletes, and obviously we're talking about an announcer now, but that are in front of them, and it's just like I think they really need to go back and take a look and think about what they're saying and what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's I went on that little rant and it's not always about me. It's just about things that I've seen, and I think all fighters should be respected no matter what the situation is.
Okay, well, yeah, it's not the first or last rant I'm sure we'll hear from you, Eddie. Thanks again. Moving to the main event, Vasyl Lomachenko now 18-3, a TKO for him though in round 11 for the vacant IBF and IBO lightweight world titles. George Kambosos in the other corner, friend of the show, now 21-3. No shame in his 3 losses. Haney Lomachenko, he was down twice in round 11. Yeah, it was body shots, wasn't it, in the end, if I remember correctly? But yeah, Lomachenko was excellent. We don't often see him that offensive that early on in a fight. I think sometimes he warms into it and then starts stepping up the offense as the rounds go on. But he started quite aggressive, and it was good to see. And even though he'd been out the ring, I think, for about a year, Lomachenko, and obviously, he's had such a long amateur career. Like, he's not going to be fighting for another, I wouldn't say 5 years or anything like that. I think he hasn't got that many fights left in him. But he was brilliant. I thought he was brilliant. He looked really sharp. And once again, people were saying maybe Canelo, his best days are behind him. I think people were saying the same about Lomachenko. I thought he was brilliant the other night. And I was saying on last week's show that I think George Kambosos is going to do better than many people think he'll do. And I was so wrong. I don't think I gave him a single round up until that 11th round when he got stopped, Eddie. Lomachenko looked good.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna be honest. Yes, I am. Before the fight, I didn't give him a chance. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't give Kambosos a chance. I don't think his skill set matches up well with a guy like Lomachenko. There's just too many different layers that he has. His footwork, his the angles he gets, the array of shots he throws, the offbeat hezzies that he does with his feints and things like that. It's just too much for a guy like Kambosos, who is, he's fast hand, but he's more so straight to you, simple, don't really have a lot of special effects, just activity and heart and determination, and that's great. But if you're in there with a technician like Lomachenko, which I just think they're worlds apart when it comes to skills. It's just I just didn't think he had a chance. I didn't personally. I'm not gonna run out there and say, oh yeah, he's terrible. He's not saying he's terrible, because he's not. He's a high level fighter. He's just not on the level of a Lomachenko. And I think guys like Lomachenko, Haney, Shakur, Tank, any of these guys that Kambosos was going to come across, he was going to be on the losing end. It's just simple. He's not skillful enough to deal with what they bring to the table. And then if you get a guy like Tank, who's a hell of a puncher as well, he just gets stopped. You know what I mean? I was thinking the same thing with when he fought Teofimo, but it's just, I guess Teofimo wasn't on his game that night and had a lot of other stuff going on in his life. But man, no disrespect to him. He went out on his shield. He was going to fight till the end. But Lomachenko just got way too many layers, man. And he looked good too. He looked like refreshed. He looked, his mind looked at ease. He looked settled. He looked like he wanted to be there. Not saying that he ever does, like other times he didn't, but he looked really comfortable. And that Lomachenko right there is, even at his age and even at the times, maybe you say he's not got, he don't have another 5 years or 5 fights, in him. That may be true, but if that is the Lomachenko we're going to get, he's going to be a problem for anyone. Even if they're able to somehow find a way to win, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, man, those constant feints, like they're just so hard to read. He doesn't do anything twice. It's just crazy, man. He was brilliant the other night, and I understand that, you know, Kambosos' lack of, well, ring IQ and footwork certainly was something that made Lomachenko probably look a little bit better than usual. But yeah, you know, can't take nothing away from Kambosos. I think he'll fight anyone, and yeah, you know, like I say, he's boxed Haney twice, he's boxed Lomachenko, he's boxed Teofimo Lopez. You know, he's got no quit in him at all. He's boxed, I think, 200 sparring rounds at least with Manny Pacquiao. You know, I tell you what, you mentioned him and Tank. I don't want to have a discussion about this because I'm not favouring Tank. Oh, I haven't even said anything yet. You take yourself off mute. Listen, I'm just saying, I think Tank will struggle to get him out of there. I really do. I really do.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because
you
Tank.
think just 'cause he's tough?
No. Because Tank's a counter puncher, right?
True.
I think you need. I think Kambosos is a guy that you need to take out with combinations. I know he got took out obviously with a body shot, and it was a single shot to the body, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly to finish it, but I don't think Tank will get to him so easy. He might get him late, like we've seen Tank. He carries that power late, and he might fudge him up late. But I think for a few rounds he'll be a bit of a problem, you know. And it's the same with Teofimo Lopez, how he struggled. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I can agree with that to a degree, but it's like when I've seen Tank walk guys down who are somewhat busy, like they have like a high work rate, and I think that's kind of what Kambosos is like. High work rate, he wants to kind of show how tough he is to a degree, and I think with Tank that is the biggest mistake he can make. And a lot of those little things that he does, like when he throws his right hand and then kind of switches and throws another right hand, that would be like the death of him. You know, shots like that, check hook, the overhand. I'm gonna be honest with you, Joe. I can agree with what you're saying because of, maybe the style and how they match up, and you know what I mean. But I think he gets him out pretty early. I think it's because Kambosos also has that. I want to show you how big my balls is, pause. And he wants to prove that he can hang, and then he goes in with this huge level of confidence, and I think that plays into Tank's hands. And I think that he as soon, I'm not going to say as soon as he walks out, but I'm going to say once it gets a little hot and he starts to try to trade, because he will inevitably try to trade with Tank, and he's going to get caught. I think it would be probably as ugly as when Tank fought. I'm forgetting his name. It's kind of
not
like
Leo Santa Cruz.
Yes, there you go, Leo Santa Cruz.
I don't know about that. We'll
I
see.
think I think it would look just like that, but I don't know if they're going to fight. But I really would. I'm telling you, I think it would end up being something like that. But I mean, look. Then again, you never know. Kambosos may surprise us. You never know.
Yeah,
he may have a better chin than we thought.
Yeah. Let's move on. The fight may never happen, but I'm sure Kambosos wouldn't say no. I think we'll all agree on that. The guy certainly will fight anyone. Anyway, that brings the review part to a close. It was fun. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former two-weight world champion, but more importantly, yesterday's birthday girl. It is, of course, Miss Chantelle Cameron. Chantelle, welcome back on the show, and happy birthday for yesterday.
Thank you, and thanks for having me back on. Always a
no
pleasure.
problem. Always a pleasure on my end as well. So, Chantelle, we last spoke back in September. At that time, you were getting ready to rematch Katie Taylor, obviously back in Ireland again. The fight would end in a majority decision again, only this time in Katie's favour. Talk me through the fight if you can, Chantelle.
To be honest, I've actually not watched it back.
Really?
Obviously, at some point I will watch it back, but what I remember of the fight, it was quite messy, a lot of holding, headbutting, obviously the blood, and I don't really want to see my head split open. So that's probably why I've not actually watched it back, because I don't deal with blood very well. So yeah, it was just Katie done what she had to do to win. Was it pretty? I don't think so. And when people were saying it was the best performance that she's had, I think how, because it was a lot of grabbing my arms and stopping me from boxing, which again, it worked because she got the win and it prevented me from getting my work in. But it's not really boxing, is it? It's more grappling on our feet.
And obviously a video surfaced after the fight showing Jamie Moore, your trainer, specifically telling the referee before the fight to watch for Katie Taylor's use of the head, for the persistent holding that he felt she would do. The referee failed to warn Katie even one time. Jamie Moore knew exactly what she was going to do, Chantelle.
You know what? We prepared for it. Obviously not prepared enough, because in all honesty, I didn't know what to do when she was holding me. I was trying to fight back, and you know what? I was having to put my forearms on her. I was doing everything I could to get out of it, but I just didn't know what I was doing. I'm not trained for that. I'm trained to box and fight, not be held. So it was very annoying. And obviously the headbutt where she bounced off the rope and literally completely headbutted me, where my head split open. How can you avoid that? Like, it's you don't prepare for that kind of thing. So obviously, her old opponents, some of her existing opponents, have said to me before, like, watch the head. So the first fight, I was pretty much clued up that there was going to be a few heads and holding and stuff. And obviously the first fight, I didn't actually get cut, which was great, and I got the win. But yeah, the second fight, people will say, oh, she's moaning, she's whinging, blah, blah, blah. That's all I'm hearing. But you know what? If you're in the ring and you're getting headbutted and hold, and it's frustrating. I've got a reason to moan. It's not like I'm moaning because I lost. I've not said one thing about losing. I'm saying how the fight played out. It was a pretty shit fight, wasn't it? Being headbutted and held and stuff like that. So yeah, people can keep saying I'm moaning, I'm whinging. Too right I am, because I'm prepared to fight. I'm not prepared for them sort of tactics.
Yeah, I just think it's important to note, because that video afterwards that we all saw where Jamie was literally telling the referee, it's almost as if the video was recorded after the fight, because he literally described what would happen exactly in the fight.
You know what?
Yeah, go on.
That video, that was when I was getting my hands wrapped.
Exactly.
So we'd already called it. And do you know what the referee said to me? I'm not sure it's on the video. I can't really remember. But no word for lie, the referee said to me, it's my job to protect myself from headbutt. That's his words. That's what he said to me. And what referee says that, really, like, protect myself from headbutt? It was crazy. It was a crazy night. And do you know what? Katie did get the win. Fair play to her. But the fact that we're not running it back just says a lot, doesn't it?
I want to get to that in a sec, but I do want to mention as well, you were also, you wasn't credited with what I felt was a clear knockdown. Did you know during the fight just how bad the referee was, or did you kind of realise it afterwards? I hate to be negative, but I mean, yeah, the referee was a disgrace.
Yeah, it was obviously when I did land the jab. I don't think I hurt Katie. It wasn't like, oh God, I've caused damage, but I did set her down. And if you land a punch on somebody's body and they touch the floor, that's a knockdown. And that's what I did. That's what I done. I threw a jab and Kate hit the ground. So it was a knockdown. And you know, I was even in Puerto Rico, and referees and judges have actually come up to me saying that one of the fights that was in the seminar and workshops was actually that knockdown. So again, that speaks volumes that referees are being trained about it. And you know, that was so like rewarding for me to hear that's the sort of magnitude of that knockdown not being scored. It's now being took into seminars and workshops, so referees are aware how to score an actual knockdown.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, when I was there, it was I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. A referee came up to me and told me that she'd done a seminar, and that knockdown was in the seminar of scoring knockdowns, which I was quite like, wow.
That's what I'm saying. That just goes to show how clean the punch landed and how clear it was to see it should have been a knockdown.
Yeah, and it set the tone of the fight as well. Like, I kind of think my head was kind of like, right, this is going to be a hard night for me. I'm not going to get no favours tonight. To be fair, I knew I wasn't going to get favours anyway. The first fight, I knew I weren't going to get any favours, but it was a bit. I think I was better in the first fight. The second fight, I just don't think I wasn't the same. I didn't know how to get out. I had that big cut that obviously did cause a lot of damage. I was allowing her to hold me, and like I'm not going to say I performed at my skin because I really didn't, but it wasn't a clean fight either. No matter what anyone says, and people can say, "Oh, you're whinging, you're moaning, blah 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 blah," but I'm speaking facts, and the people that actually speak the truth and ain't scared to speak out for the truth instead of getting backlash, everyone's saying the same thing.
And after Katie won the belts back, it looks like after that things broke down between yourself and Matchroom, who you've obviously now left. Yeah. Just tell me in a nutshell about that, Chantelle, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. I've got a few more questions, obviously.
Yeah, just obviously I thought the trilogy was going to happen. I accepted less money, and it kind of like Katie after the fight said that the trilogy would happen next. It's great for women's boxing, etc., etc. Like she said that when she was in the ring after her victory over me. And next thing, basically accepted less money, had no terms. I accepted everything. There was nothing on my side which I was demanding. So the fight was kind of done and dusted. But then my manager rings me, telling me that Katie wanted an easier fight, so she was going to face her mandatory. So obviously I was a bit like, wow, what the hell? And then a few weeks after that, she's boxing Amanda Serrano, which you see why it's a lot of money for her now, and it's a rematch with Amanda Serrano, who again was a great fight, very very good fight. A lot of people thought Amanda Serrano did win, so she does have something to prove there again. But people don't realise that she weren't going to have the trilogy before that fight was even in talks.
Yeah, exactly. You have now signed with Queensberry and Frank Warren. Tell me how that came about and why Frank is the right man to guide this next chapter of your career.
So basically, as soon as I knew that I weren't having the trilogy, we're talking 6 weeks before Matchroom done the announcement, I said to my manager, I had a comeback fight with Matchroom, and I kind of was like, what are they going to offer me? The comeback fight there was like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to get the Katie fight ever again with Matchroom, probably not. I've got like, to be honest, I didn't want to fight on a Matchroom card after the last Katie fight. And I kind of was just like, I didn't know what I was going to do. It was frustrating because it was kind of thinking, shit, I've been on top of the world and now I'm at rock bottom. Like, what am Matchroom really going to offer me? Something that I'm not really going to be interested in. It's going to be hard to get up for. I'm going to struggle. So my manager started speaking to. So I said to him, I like Frank Warren. I like the way he conducts himself. I like the way he handles business. He seems to look after his boxers very well. So I did ask my manager to open up a conversation with Queensberry, and he did that. And we were going back and forth for a very long time. And I did have a few more fighters contact to have a sit down with me, but I'm kind of a bit of a weirdo. Once I've got my mindset on something, then I don't really get distracted by other things. So I kind of already made my mind up and said to my manager, like, let's just go with Queensberry.
Okay. You did just briefly mention there, obviously, we're going to see the rematch with Taylor Serrano. How do you think that fight will go?
I was a bit disappointed for Amanda that she didn't get the 3-minute rounds, because obviously it was trailblazing with the 3-minute rounds. I think that there's a lot of women now that want to box 3-minute rounds. Personally, I would love to do 3-minute rounds, but I think Amanda said in an interview that it has to be set 2-minute rounds. So I think it would have been great if it was 3-minute rounds on Netflix as well. I think it's going to be a great fight again, but I think it was very, very close the last time. And I don't know how the weight's going to be at 140 for Amanda Serrano. She's coming up 3 weight divisions. So I probably would edge towards Amanda Serrano because it's a most value promotions card. Amanda can bang a bit. I think, and do you know what? I actually think I took Katie. So I think them 2 fights we had, I think they were a lot. And she was hanging on. She was breathing real heavy. What she got left in the tank, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and it's interesting what you said there about how you think that fight will go. Look, I know that Eddie Hearn came out and kind of defended himself, saying, we did do some big things for Chantelle. We got the likes of, my mind's gone completely blank now. Who's the lady that, this is so bad. Who's the lady that you boxed at the O2? I was there, I completely forgot. Mary McGee. Yeah, they delivered that opportunity. Yeah, they delivered that opportunity. Yeah. I don't want to walk you into saying, bad mouthing anyone, but how do you look back on the time that you had under Matchroom? Did you feel used, Chantelle? Or, what's the general feeling?
No, you know what? I actually don't. You know what? Eddie is right with the fact that they did deliver me opportunities, but I got myself in a mandatory position way before I joined Matchroom. So I was already mandatory for a world title. I won my world title, which was behind closed doors, great. And then a tournament was made, but I've heard different things really, because I heard that it was actually made for Tasha Jonas, and then I was hearing in interviews that it was made for me. So I was kind of like, I heard different things, but you know what boxing's like. There's a lot of she said, they said, he said, so I didn't know what to believe. But obviously the tournament come about, had a great fight and a great night with Mary McGee. The tournament didn't happen because Callie Reese in the final had medical conditions, so that was a bit frustrating. I didn't blame Matchroom, but I kind of was like, I want to be active, I want to be busy, and I ended up defending my belt in London, and then got the opportunity to go Abu Dhabi, which again was a night I'll always remember. That was a great night for me, beating Jessica McCaskill's undisputed, and I had the first Katie Taylor fight and won. But let's be real, everyone wanted it to be pushed under the carpet. I wasn't meant to go to Ireland. I wasn't meant to ruin the homecoming, and I wasn't meant to beat Katie Taylor. So it I feel like nobody wanted to acknowledge that, what I'd done. And then I had to go back for the rematch to Dublin, which I wasn't too keen on. That's the God's honest truth. I did get solicitors to look over my contract and see could we box in a neutral location, because obviously I wanted it to be neutral and I wanted it to be a bit more equal, like a bit more fair, but it kind of was just, it would have got messy. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to Dublin. I'm going to do the rematch. And yeah, like they did, they got me opportunities, which is great. And even now, like, I have no bad feeling. I don't think I was well suited to Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, but I do think now with Frank Warren, I think this is going to be the best part of my career. I feel like I'm going to be looked after, I'm going to be promoted well, and I'm going to get opportunities again. Already they're saying that they're going to push me for my mandatory at 140 and push me to get my belts back, and they seem just as excited as I am excited, and as much as I want it, I feel like they want it too. So I feel like this is just a better relationship already. I feel like already with Frank, I feel like we're on the same playing field and we've both got the same ambitions for me.
No, that's really good. That's really positive. Just in one word, Chantelle, do you feel that the third fight with Katie will never happen?
No, it will never happen.
Okay. That's a shame, hopefully.
And that's not on my part. That's definitely not on my part.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know
Look, I would jump at the chance. Like I feel like the trilogy should be happening. It's one apiece.
Yeah. She
beat me the last fight, and it's a controversial win because people were saying it was a knockdown. It should have been a 10-8 round. It was a close fight anyway, and even Katie said after she beat me that the trilogy for women's boxing, etc. But then to just change your tune and say you want an easier fight, but then change your tune again because you got offered a massive paycheck, which I don't blame her. If that was me, I would have jumped at the chance for the paycheck as well. It's professional boxing, it's a business, and you got to make your money. But the truth is, she'd already accepted to box the mandatory before the trilogy.
Yeah, 100%. I know that you know when you're fighting, Chantelle, but when are fans gonna hear an announcement on that?
I'm actually waiting for it to be announced, but it's July the 20th in Birmingham. I got told I can announce it anyway, so it's all
there
good.
We go. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to dance around that.
Queensbury actually said to announce it at your call on Saturday.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's good to know.
July the 20th. And just down the road from me. I'm absolutely buzzing.
There we go.
Birmingham's just literally 50 minutes.
Excellent. Yeah, you've also had some really fiery back and forths in recent weeks with none other than Sandy Ryan. Where did that stem from, Chantelle? It's always entertaining reading those tweets, though.
You know what? I'm not even going to entertain her by saying her name. She's a clout chaser, and she wants her name mentioned because she's got no fight. And the 147 division's hot at the moment, and they're all fighting each other, and she's been left and put aside. So not even going to give her the time and day. I'm sick of entertaining her for giving her my time anyway. She's not worth it.
Let's move on then to my final real question for you, Chantelle. It's fight week. Fury Usyk. I'm sure you want Fury to win, but how do you see the fight playing out? What's your prediction?
I am going to say a Fury points decision. I think it's going to be a great fight. Massive boxing IQ. It's going to be an absolute masterclass from both boxers, but I'm going to go Tyson Fury win. Maybe split.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight, and as you
definitely
say,
going to be close.
Yeah, two great boxing minds at play. Just before we wrap things up, Chantelle, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, like I say, always fantastic having you back on the pod.
Thanks for listening, and I can't wait to get back in the ring and get my journey started with Frank Warren and Queensbury. And I'm really excited. I feel like the best of me is yet to come. I feel like the loss is actually a lesson, and as much as I've been getting a lot of hate lately about moaning, this, that, blah, 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 at the end of the day, I'm entitled to speak out and voice my opinion. And I think just because I am outspoken, I don't think I should be, slandered for it. Not slandered, like slagged off and made out I'm something I'm not just because I'm speaking facts. Like I'm entitled to, and everyone else is saying it, but just doesn't say it publicly because obviously they get backlash too. Everyone's seen what happened. Everyone knew what happened, and people just don't like anyone that speaks out. But I'm going to keep doing it, and no matter what anyone says or blah blah blah. Listen, I am outspoken. I say what I say, and I've got no regret.
There we go. And like I say, if I ever see anything on the timeline, I'm straight on it as well. I don't take any Chantelle Cameron slander at all.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah, it makes me laugh because I just think, like, it's just delusion. It's such delusion and blinkers. And I just think, like, fair enough, like, I took the loss. I lost the belts, but I'm speaking facts. It's not like I'm making stuff up. So it's just crazy. It's just the world we live in.
Yeah, especially that social media world. But listen, Chantelle, it's always a pleasure. We'll keep an eye out for an opponent announcement soon. Thanks for your time, and I really hope you had a great birthday as well.
Oh, thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, usually the news part, but there's nothing to bring you. So if something happens from now to the end of the show, then I'll discuss it on the outro. But moving straight on to the preview part, we're going to start here in Hamburg, Germany, at the Hotel Elysee. Over here, it's a bit of a wild card fight, I think. We're going to see Harry Scarf coming off that brilliant win last time out against Eko Esserman. He's 13-2. He steps in with Karen Chakadzian, who we, of course, give a lot of credit for making a bit of an ugly fight against Jaron Ennis and being one of the few men to hear the final bell against Jaron Ennis. He's 23-2. Oh, Eddie, what have you got to say about that one?
No, I'm actually kind of excited to see what this guy does, man. I actually thought he was not terrible.
Yeah.
I thought he was really well put together as far as his footwork and defense. So I always like guys like that. Of course, you know that.
Yeah, Harry Scarf is I mean, he's kind of more of a back foot boxer that likes to switch stances and keep everything behind the jab, but he's got a real frustrating style. And yeah, you know, Eko Esserman, you're not going to know who that is, but he's got a really good work rate and stuff, but he was just unable to, you know, he just couldn't be effective against Scarf, who was brilliant last time out. He upset the odds there. So he's got a lot of confidence here, and he goes to Germany. It's a fight that doesn't make much sense, but it's over 12 rounds at welterweight. All the best to Harry Scarf. Moving now to the big card. Do you know what? Let's go to that last, actually. Let's move to the card that's taking place in the Pechanga Arena in San Diego, California first. It goes down, I'm sure, on ESPN and also on Sky Sports. We're going to see Richard Torres Jr. 9-0 back in the ring in an 8-rounder. He's always exciting to watch. He's got 9 KOs. He steps in with the undefeated 14-0 Brandon Moore. We're also going to see Giovanni Santillan 32-0. Great win last time out. Who did he beat last time out? Oh boy. But anyway, he's back in the ring. He steps in with Brian Norman Jr., who is 25-0. Should be a good fight. Like I said, there's a lot of there's a lot of fights between the two. What's that? 57-0. No one's racked up a loss. And it reminds me as well. Giovanni Santillan last time out stopping Alexis Rocha. It was a fantastic performance, and I'm pretty sure Rocha, I think, was a slight favourite. Maybe wrong on that, but he was great last time out. And yeah, the main event, Emmanuel Navarrete in his first fight up at lightweight. He is currently 38-1 with a draw. It's contest number 41 here. He steps in with Denis Berenchik, who's 18-0. Should be an interesting fight. Like I say, Berenchik, a career lightweight. It's for the vacant WBO lightweight world title. Navarrete hoping he'll win, and then obviously he'll vacate his belts at super feather, and then that opens up the doors there. So yeah, it's going to be intriguing. Every single Navarrete fight is intriguing, but he is, he's another guy that's had a bit of a rocky past few fights. I mean, I felt he lost to Robson Conceição. I think he certainly lost that fight there. That was last time out, but obviously it ended up in a draw. The Oscar Valdez fight, he was fantastic in that one, and obviously the Liam Wilson fight, he was on the deck and he was hurt, but he come back to knock Wilson out. So yeah, it's been a bit of a rough time. I can't believe he's still only 29 years of age, the amount of fights he's had, but yeah, never in a bad fight, always worth watching. And let's move now to the big one. It goes down at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Eddie, jump in at any point. I'm sure there's a few things you're going to want to say. It's going to be live on a bunch of different channels. I'm going to start down the undercard. I think there's some really good and interesting fights on this undercard. When it was first announced, a lot of people were criticising it, but I think it's because it's a little bit of a this is going to, I might have to say pause here, but a semi-hardcore, card. It's got a few. Leave me alone.
Why did you say it, though?
Oh, dear. But
good one, Joe. That was good. Go ahead.
We've got David Naika, who's 8-0 with 7 KOs. He steps in with Michael Seltz, who's 12-0 with 10 KOs. That one could be interesting there. Both guys are cruiserweights. That's over 8 rounds. We're also going to see the very, very tall Daniel Lapine, who's part of that Usyk team. He's a 6'6" southpaw light heavyweight. He's currently 9-0. He steps in with Octavio Pudivit, who is currently 9-1. That one's over 10 rounds for the WBA Intercontinental Light Heavyweight title. We're also going to see Moses Italma 8-0. What's he now? He's still 8? Is he still 18? No, he's 19 years of age now, Moses Italma. He's got 6 KOs. He steps in with Ilya Mezenchev, who's 25-3 with 21 KOs, but he has been stopped in 2 of his 3 losses. He lost to Tom Schwartz. He retired on his store after 6 rounds, and also he got banged out by Tom Schwartz again 4 years earlier. So he's been stopped twice to Tom Schwartz. That doesn't really seem too good. Also on the card as well, I mean, he's only here because he's, I don't want to be disrespectful to him. I love the guy. He's a nice guy. He's been on the show many times. Isaac Lowe, but I think he's only on the card because he's Tyson's cousin. He's 24-2 with 3 draws. He steps in with the Afghan fighter Hazibullah Ahmadi, who's 16-1. I don't know anything about him, but all the best to Isaac Lowe. Also on the card as well, Sergey Kovalev returns to the ring, 35-4 with a draw, getting a piece of that Saudi Arabian money. He is back in a 10-rounder here at cruiserweight. He hasn't boxed since May of 2022, so 2 years out the ring, and he steps in with a guy called Robin Safar, who's 16-0. Who is a 6'3" fighter from Sweden with 12 KOs. Again, never seen this guy before. I do just want to quickly look at his resume to see if I recognize any of these guys on here, and I don't. So I don't know what to make of him. Be interesting to see where the odds lie there. I mean, Sergey Kovalev, I don't know what he's got left. Also on the card as well, Mark Chamberlain, 15-0 for the vacant WBC silver lightweight title over 12 rounds against Joshua Wahab, who's 23-1. Wahab actually lost his O to Liam Dillon, who we mentioned in part 1. He lost that fight to him by majority decision over 12 back in September of 2022. So all the best there to Mark Chamberlain. Still some great fights, I think, that can be made over here for him. And yeah, he boxed out there, didn't he, last time against Gavin Gwynn. So I believe that's the second time he's boxed, or this will be the second time he's boxed in Saudi. Also on the card, a really interesting fight here, Eddie, and you might wanna say something on this. Ajit Kabayel, 24-0, the guy that was able to solve the puzzle what was Arslanbek Makhmudov last time when he went out there to Saudi and, he hurt Makhmudov to the body, and Makhmudov could not take them body shots. He ended up stopping him in what was a massive upset. He steps in with the Cuban Frank Sanchez, both guys 24-0, over 12 rounds. I don't know if you remember much of Kabayel, once upon a time beat Derek Chisora as well. Could be a good fight, this.
Yeah, it's interesting. It should, once again, it's going to be difficult though to beat Frank Sanchez because of his ability to punch, because he could punch pretty good, but he's also like, that Cuban moving, and it's just he's difficult because you never know when it's coming with him. You know what I'm saying? He'll be getting around the ring. He'll move. It could be an ugly fight, a boring fight. And typically that kind of plays into his hands. So, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, obviously the other kid, this Caballero upset the odds last time. So, I mean, if the odds are saying that Frank Sanchez is going to be the guy to beat, that's going to be up in this one, there's no guarantee that that's going to actually turn out to be what it is. You know what I'm saying? It seems like he can figure out, these guys who are, favorites. So I don't know. I just know Frank Sanchez is the kind of guy that people, that a fighter will fight just be irritated fighting him. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a difficult fight. Might not be a lot of punches thrown if he can help it. A lot of movement. Him being able to keep the fight at range and trying to box because he got pretty good hand speed. Like I said, pretty good power. Like I said, if the work rate is low and it's fought at range, it's probably going to be favored to him. I don't really remember too much about Cabello, but I'm expecting that he wants to close the distance in a little bit and put his hands on him a lot more, because obviously the other plays to Frank Sanchez's power. So I don't know, man. Frank Sanchez is one of those guys that it's almost like I would want the other guy to win. You know what I mean? Because I just think he'll be more of an exciting prospect to watch. But I think Frank Sanchez is probably a little bit better fighter. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I just hope the fight's a little more exciting. And I think if it is, it's going to probably be because Caballero comes and wants to put his hands on this guy. So we'll see.
Yeah, it could be a stinker, but hopefully it's not. Also on that card as well, we're going to see the rematch between Jai Opetaia, 24-0, not defending his IBF Cruiserweight World title because he was stripped of it, but he's now fighting back for it as it's vacant. Obviously, the IBF decided to strip him in his last fight when he decided to take on Ellis Zorro of the UK. He got some really good money out there in Saudi, but the IBF didn't want to sanction it, so they stripped him. But the belt is on the line in this rematch. He steps back in with Maris Bradis, who is now 28-2, but Maris Bradis hasn't boxed since that fight against Opetaia, which was back in July of 2022. He broke Jai Opetaia's jaw in that fight, but obviously lost unanimously in the end. Scores of 116, 112 twice, and 115, 113. He did go all the way to Australia for it. I guess they're now on a little bit of neutral patch here in Saudi Arabia. But I do think that the Saudis like Jai Opetaia. And, since he beat Bradis, he's knocked out 2 Brits who, were undefeated. But, it's fair to say were much lower level guys than Bradis. And Bradis, what's he now? He's got to be up there in age, I say now. I'm not sure what his age is, but coming off 2 years almost out the ring, will that play a factor? It's made Jai Opetaia a massive favourite, despite him, blowing through much lower level guys twice in a row. So, they're expecting him to actually stop Bradis. I think, I wouldn't put it past him. I think Jai Opetaia is a fantastic fighter, and I love watching him fight. I think he's a breath of fresh air, really, in that division. But to stop Bradis, I wouldn't bet against it, but I think it'd be a big statement at the same time, if that makes any sense. But I cannot wait to see that fight. It's another cracker. Also on the card as well, another good fight. Joe Cordina defending his IBF no, he's just got the IBF. He's defending his IBF super featherweight world title against the IBO champion Anthony Cacace, 21-1. Another fight here where, I would lean towards Joe Cordina to win on points. I think it's going to be, it might be a bit of a tough fight to watch. I think it's going to be, a chess match. I think both guys are really good boxers. Cordina can punch for sure. That's absolutely sure. You've only got to look as far back to that Ogawa fight. He absolutely splattered him. But yeah, I can't see him stopping Cacace. I think Cacace's, a good boxer, good skilled boxer. And yeah, it's going to be a chess match, but I think Cordina will probably win that one there on the cards. And then moving straight to the main event, Eddie. I don't know whether to go first myself. I should probably go first myself. But yeah, it's fantastic, man, that we're finally getting this fight. Alexander Usyk, 21-0. Tyson Fury, 34-0 with a draw. IBF, IBO, WBA Super, WBC, WBO heavyweight world titles. We're finally going to see an undisputed champion for the first time in 20 odd years. Lennox Lewis, the last man to be the undisputed heavyweight world champion, is going to be part of the broadcasting team, which is great that he's out there. What a fabulous fight, Eddie. We would have seen this a good few weeks back, obviously, if Tyson didn't get cut in sparring. But Tyson, he's had even longer now to train. We've seen him, this fight week, looking extremely, slender. He seems to have shifted a lot of weight. They're saying, I think it was John Fury that said he's going to come in at his career lowest. Some people think that might be a bit of a bad move, shifting that much weight before this fight here. I've heard so much about Alexander Usyk. I've heard that he's done really well in sparring, in preparation. I've also heard that he's done really bad in sparring from reliable sources as well. So I don't know what to believe. I don't really want to read into it too much. But we are going to have a fantastic fight come Saturday, and it's against probably the absolute 2 finest boxing brains in the heavyweight division. These 2 guys, their ring IQ is off the charts, and it's going to be a chess match. It is going to be a chess match. I cannot see a stoppage here. I think it definitely goes the distance. I don't know who I favour, honestly. I probably would lean slightly towards Fury points, but he has to establish that jab, because if he allows Usyk to get past that jab and, fight on the inside, Usyk, I think, he's got the ability to be a little bit too busy, and I think he can nick rounds. And obviously, he's coming off that stoppage win against Daniel Dubois. That was a great win. He got his first stoppage at heavyweight, actually, as well, which should be mentioned. And Tyson Fury looked really bad against Francis Ngannou. I don't know if we can even read into that Ngannou fight. Eddie, I could probably carry on talking again and again and again. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to come to you. You're the man with the knowledge.
Yeah, well, you got some knowledge too, Joe. Don't knock your knowledge. You pay attention to a lot of this stuff. You should actually probably start thinking about taking this podcasting thing to the next level. But anyway, to go into this fight, and I've been saying this for a while with Usyk, and I really am really respectful toward his game and what he can do. But a lot of people are looking at that fight with Ngannou and saying, "Oh, Tyson Fury, he's lost a step, and he's this, he's that," and maybe they're right. Who knows? There's no guarantee that he's a little older now. He's been through some things. He's still undefeated. He hasn't taken a hell of a lot of punishment, even though he's been in there with Wilder a couple of times. But yeah, I mean, it could be just like Father Time can catch up to us. But just at last looks, it looks like he's kind of fell off. But I think this is where people start to believe too much into hype. You know what I mean? It's like you pay attention to things that really don't matter. And we've said this so many times that triangle theories don't work. And of course they did. I'm not saying that because these two guys fought each other, Ngannou and Usyk, but it's just, and also the other thing is that styles make fights. And Ngannou has nothing to really go on. We have nothing to really go on with Ngannou. At the time that he fought Tyson, that was his first professional fight in a boxing ring. So it was like, we don't really know anything. Tyson didn't really know anything. And I don't really believe his mentality was where it needed to be in that fight. He wasn't motivated. He could say, I gave him full camp. I did all that. And he's saying that because he doesn't want to use excuses, which is, that's a fighter. You know what I mean? That's what we're supposed to do. We take the ownership. We are, accountable for our mistakes and whatever we do. So we kind of just want to, leave it at what it is. Like, I made a mistake. I didn't train. I trained properly. It's just that he was better than I thought. The reality of it is, I don't think he did what he probably should have done in camp. I don't think that, and I also just don't think that the style for him was going to be flattering. And like I said, strategically, what was Tyson going to do? He couldn't do what he did to Wilder with Ngannou because there's a difference in size and strength. And I think Wilder's strong, but he's not nowhere near the level of strength that Ngannou is. So once again, I say all that to say, we're reading a little bit too much into that fight and not enough into what he really is as a fighter and what his IQ is and what his size brings and his length and his ability to box. I think these are the things that we need to look at. Also need to look at his history with southpaws, because obviously, Usyk is an extremely tricky southpaw. So, it's what we're talking about is a completely separate fight than what we've seen him in, you know what I mean, before. So this has to be looked at in a different way. We can't start, he fought this guy and didn't do this, and he fought that guy. Just like I said, let's look at it for what it is. Let's try to match these two up as fighters. They're both the cream of the crop, the elite in the heavyweight division, and for that matter, really in boxing, some of the top guys in boxing, even pound for pound. Maybe Tyson's a little bit down the line, now. But Usyk is definitely talked about as in the top 5 pound for pound guys. So, I think the fight is going to be one hell of a fight, and, I'm obviously a little biased in this, being that I know Tyson and, we're good friends, and even though I haven't talked to him in a while. But it's not about that for me. Even before I got to know those guys, I knew he had something different. Obviously his height and his reach and his, his altogether size makes it a tough puzzle to solve, even if he was a robot at that size, a big robotic guy. But the fact that he has the boxing savvy, he's been boxing since he was younger, and he can move, he has the whole boxing package. You understand what I'm saying? His IQ is high. He's a different animal. And I think that's what we have to remember. You know what I mean? He outboxed the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Famer Vladimir Klitschko, outboxing. And now, granted, he was, slightly not the guy he was, but even at the time that Tyson beat him, I still think he was there. And then not only that, like I said, he outboxed him, outfoxed him, at range, feints, IQ, all of that. You know what I mean? I think we're overlooking right? What Tyson is and what he brings to the table. I think it's going to be one hell of a fight. I think Usyk is definitely going to make it. It's going to make it tough. It ain't going to be easy. He's very crafty. I do agree, Joe, that it's probably not going to be any stoppage. If there is, it's probably going to be, it would be late, and I would probably favor Tyson to get it. Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm gonna be on the edge of my seat. I'm gonna be excited to see what happens, but also a little nervous because there's an outcome that I want to that I want to actually happen. But I'll respect whoever wins. I mean, I respect fighters in general, but I mean, I'm gonna be happy with whatever outcome comes through, as long as there's no injuries, nobody gets hurt too bad. Like I said, man, I'm just looking. I don't want to ramble too much, but I'm just looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, you and me both, my friend. Cannot wait for it. I don't think there's anything I need to add to that, Eddie, so thank you. In part one, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest, the former two-weight world champion, Miss Chantelle Cameron. In part two, there was no news, so we went straight to the preview part and wrapped that up just there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 448 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge shout out to this week's special guest, the former two-weight world champion herself, Miss Chantelle Cameron. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything, though, from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again same time next week.